Thank you. That woman you just saw in the video has been through hell in her short 29 years. She's cheated death at least twice, she's experienced loss, and she's let war change her. She's broken herself down so that she could rebuild her life. She's failed miserably, and she's reached new, unbelievable heights. She received the Pat Tillman Award at last year's ESPYs. She's this year's Higher Ground Award recipient from the Martin Luther King family. And in just a few days, she will be inducted into the 2020 International Sports Hall of Fame. Thank you. That woman is me, and none of it happened overnight. My mom and my dad got married at 18 years old. Shortly after, my dad joined the Marine Corps. At 25 years old, while my family was living on Marine Corps Base 29 Palms, my mom came home and told my dad, "You know, I think these female Marines are pretty badass." My dad turned to my mom and said, "I will never be married to a female Marine." To which my mom turned around, went out the door, went to the recruiter's office, got an age waiver, and joined the Marine Corps, leaving me at home with my dad while she went to boot camp. Morals of the story, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and my dad's a pain in the ass. Immediately after earning my 2-year degree from Pensacola State College, just 4 months after my 17th birthday, I went to the recruiter's office and told them that I wanted to join. Of course, being so young, I needed my parents' consent. My mom signed immediately and said good riddance, while I had to do some convincing with my dad. I had to lie through my teeth, saying that I would do a desk job, like supply or admin. Long story short, when my dad dropped me off for boot camp, my recruiter casually said, "This is great. I've never put a female in for this type of job." My cover was blown, my father was angry, but I was well on my way. I ended up spending 6 years in the United States Marine Corps as a helicopter door gunner and airframes mechanic. It's safe to say that it wasn't a desk job. I fought tooth and nail to be able to wear those shiny gold wings on my chest, and I would be lying if I said it were easy. Luckily, I have thick skin, a chip on my shoulder, and I am as stubborn as they come. Being that I was the only female in my shop, it was difficult for the men to see me turning wrenches and dragging my knuckles, let alone watch me man a 50 caliber machine gun. When they looked at me, they saw their wives, girlfriends, mothers, sisters, and so on. But in true Ennis fashion, I kept my head down to do what I needed to in order to be the best aerial door gunner that I could be. I wanted the people around me to know that I would protect them just as they were protecting me. I wanted the men around me to know that I could do the same job that they were doing and that I would do it better. My first deployment to Afghanistan was with Heavy Marine Helicopter Squadrons 461 and 465. At this time, I was a whopping 19 years old. I never thought being miserable in a third world country would be something that I actually enjoyed. But being on a deployment, there's never a question of what your role is or what your purpose is. There's never a question of what your hair is going to look like, what you're going to eat, or even what you're going to wear. It's simple. Take care of yourself, take care of your men, and come home alive. In August of 2011, I returned home from Afghanistan, and my family picked me up from Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. After my deployment reset, my former gunnery sergeant begged me to deploy again. Initially, I fought the idea, thinking that I had had enough of sitting in the desert for the last 7 months. But 2 weeks later, I found myself on a plane to Hawaii to train with Heavy Marine Helicopter Squadron 362, and in January of 2012, I was right back in Afghanistan. Now, Aircraft 01 was my aircraft. It's the one that I flew on day in and day out, and it's the one that I maintained. On January 19th, 2012, we had a helicopter go down that killed all 6 crew members. This, ladies and gentlemen, was call sign Irontail 06. In honor of our 6 Marines, we painted one of our helicopters in their memory. It read, "We will never forget Irontail 06" on the nose landing gear door, had all of their names painted on the sides, and even the 50 cals were painted for them. Fast forward, June 23rd, 2012 started like any other day and any other mission. I was running out to the flight line to turn up Aircraft 01 when my maintenance officer snatched me up and said that there had been a change of plans. I would no longer be going out on Aircraft 01. I would now be going outbound on Aircraft 06, the memorial helicopter. Everything was going as planned, and then suddenly, I was staring at a blue overhead light, struggling to breathe with blood rapidly filling my mouth. My leg collapsed underneath me, and my arms tore from their sockets. I screamed, but not out of pain, just shock. My tail gunner, who had been my military hero and role model, wasn't responding initially. To hell with me, I wanted to know that they were okay. They threw me into the medevac helicopter, and as I drained the blood from the now fist-sized hole in my face, the new left door gunner bent down next to me and said, "Don't close your freaking eyes, because you won't open them again." I told myself that I wasn't going to die without seeing my little sister, and then everything went black. This, ladies and gentlemen, was call sign Legacy 07. As a result of the crash, I sustained various injuries: a traumatic brain injury, spinal cord damage, damage to my arms, my ears, my eyes, and the left leg amputation. I endured 2 years of different therapies while living at the hospital and mental health. To this day, I still go to speech therapy. While all of my crew suffered injuries, I wholeheartedly believe that the reason my crew and I fared as well as we did was because the boys of Iron Tail 06 didn't let history repeat itself. In my mind, I wasn't that hurt. They were just going to sew me up and I would go right back to flying. I had just been combat meritoriously promoted to sergeant. They couldn't send me home. But the moment they wheeled me into the makeshift hospital on Camp Bastion and I saw my sergeant major and gunnery sergeant standing there crying, I knew my deployment was over. The hardest thing that I have ever had to do was leave my guys behind so that they could continue the fight. While the physical injuries were terrible, the most debilitating ones were easily my invisible wounds. Joining the Marine Corps at such a young age and giving 6 years to it, it was all I knew. I loved it. I bled green, as they say. I had no intention on getting out of the military. I had planned on staying in another 20 years. So finding out that I was unfit for duty after fighting so long to stay active was when I crumbled. I no longer knew who I was. I not only wore scars on my body, but also my heart. Mentally and emotionally, it became very difficult for me to continue fighting for myself. I had given up. That same pain in the ass dad that I mentioned earlier gave me the tough love that I needed. I will never forget the moment that he looked at me with tears in his eyes as he said, "You've got to be shitting me." The enemy couldn't kill you, and now you're going to do it for them. That's the moment that I decided I was going to get my life back. It's the 6 inches between our ears and what's behind our ribcage that dictate what we're capable of. I realized that I was spared and chosen for this new path, whether I was ready for it or not. The moment that I decided to embrace my pain and my past and to stop inflicting it on others was when I understood that we have the power to write the rest of our stories. One chapter doesn't determine how the story is going to end. I finally understood that you can't be all in if parts of you don't show up. And if I couldn't show up for myself, then I was going to do it for the people around me, the people who needed me. So hanging on to my dad's words, I chose to continue the hardest fight of my life, my recovery. In order to cope with my injuries, I turned to the outdoors. While I was still a patient in the hospital, an organization approached me and asked if I had any desire to learn a winter sport. Quite frankly, being from Florida, I knew nothing about winter or snow, but I was willing to learn anything if it got me out of the hospital. To my surprise, when I arrived in Breckenridge, Colorado, no one asked me for a medical clearance. So naturally, I said I wanted to snowboard, and the rest was history. Snowboarding was now the one thing that made me want to wake up every day. I found my new outlet, my new passion. It reminds me that no one can do this for me. While it is okay for people to help me, it is up to me to decide how I'm going to live the rest of my life. Snowboarding is a reminder of my resiliency and why I fought so long to get out of my wheelchair and stay away from the hospital. It reminds me that I am one of the fortunate ones who may be broken, but I am still here and I still can. I made the goal to compete in the Winter Paralympics, but shortly after, my suffering was brought to another level. After already being a below-the-knee amputee, I later suffered a vascular necrosis and catching MRSA in the hospital. This took my leg to an above-the-knee amputation. I screamed in agony as they told me that they might have to take my hip. I yelled, "Do not wake me up if you have to take it that high." Being an above-the-knee amputee is, as they say, a whole new ballgame. And yet again, I thought my dream of making my country proud by wearing the Team USA uniform was turned into a nightmare. Since I lost the 2016 and 17 snowboarding seasons to my injuries, I decided that I would heal and take to the mountains in a different way, by climbing and mountaineering. I decided that I would climb Kilimanjaro, the highest point in Africa, in March of 2017. This was only 4 short months after my last surgery and my last effort to keep my spirits high. Mountaineering kept me focused and gave me something to put my energy into. I ended up summiting Mount Kilimanjaro, but that was not the best part. We ended up raising over $150,000 for clean water for the East Tanzanians. Thank you. And this was just the start. 2017 was the beginning of the best years of my life. Since then, I completed a third master's and started a doctorate, all against my doctor's odds and orders. I got back up on my snowboard and competed again. I founded my own nonprofit, the Kirstie Ennis Foundation. Real original, I know. My mom and I joined forces at Engel and Völkers, Carbondale. I became a serial entrepreneur in Southern California, investing in my friends who sat tirelessly by my side in the hospital. And I decided that I would attempt to be the first woman above-knee amputee to climb the highest peak on each of the 7 continents while raising money and awareness for disabled and underserved populations around the world. On February 1st, 2019, I stood on top of the highest point in South America. It's also the highest point outside of the Himalayas at 22,841 feet, and better known as Aconcagua, or the Mountain of Death. To date, this has been my proudest summit as I became the first woman amputee to ever stand on top. Aconcagua was quite a feat, but ultimately, it was a determining factor in what my next climb would be. My successes in the mountains reassured me that I was ready for Everest. I spent April and May of 2019 in Nepal making my first Everest attempt. For 7 weeks, I climbed the tallest mountain in the world. For nearly 4 weeks, I never went below Camp 1. In other words, I never went below 6,000 meters or 20,000 feet. I lived off of expired MREs, you guys can figure that one out, and struggled through countless hours of tent time. On my summit day, wind tore through my face, making it like leather and my lips like sandpaper. My eyes suffered damage from the elements, my climbing partners ran out of oxygen, and we dealt with a Sherpa, leaving us in the death zone. I came home 15 pounds lighter than I am right now, and my lungs had no idea how to react to the thick oxygen in Colorado. But please know that this is for far more than ego or making history. This is to inspire the next generations. This is to provide education, opportunity, and healing in the outdoors. This is to push the limits in medical device technology and to create new tools to improve the quality of life for others. This is to redefine what it is to be disabled or injured. This is to show that we write our own definitions in life. Now, I can't stop. Better yet, I won't stop. I want to show the world that anything is possible, given you are willing to work for it. Though I am missing a leg, I have mastered the art form of convincing myself to put one foot in front of the other. The art form of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and ultimately, I've learned to suffer well. By taking a step back and reassessing who I was and where I was, I reattached myself to a different but very similar purpose. I joined the Marine Corps to serve people. Now, I'm going to continue to serve, just in a different way. Today, I can say that I truly live my life for other people. When we are able to think clearly about the situations that we have been given, we hold the power to eliminate what stands in our way. So strip away the excess. All too often, we focus on what lies on the surface that's going on in our life instead of focusing on what it holds for our future. Stop clouding your mind with fog and distractions and be clear on your direction. Something I've learned on my journey and my never-ending quest for more is that thinking quickly becomes our best friend and worst enemy. While it gives us our reassurance and confidence, it is the very same thing that holds us back from our deepest desires and greatest successes. Stop overthinking and start showing up for what calls to you. When I stopped being my harshest critic and started appreciating my ambition and passion for the outdoors and people, I was able to make change so that I could reach my personal and professional summits. I didn't tell you these things for pity or accolades, but more importantly, to show you what opportunity and the human spirit can do. I have been extremely blessed to have people come out of the woodworks to get me back to being who Kirstie really is. And this is my time to pay it forward. I hope that there is someone out there watching me right now thinking that they can do this better than me, and then I hope that they actually try. What I have been through has been a blessing and a curse. It is a curse that I wouldn't wish on my own worst enemy. I've suffered an extreme amount of loss at a very young age. I lost years of my life to the hospital and to recovery. I lost my military career. I lost the majority of my memory. And the most obvious, I lost my leg. But I choose to focus on what I've gained. And my biggest blessing has been my new perspective on life. Had this not happened to me, I would not be spending time with you guys today. In the end, the people I have helped, the people that I'm surrounded by, and the people in front of me right now were all worth it. You were worth it. I don't have to know you personally to know that you have felt pain, been disappointed, or suffered in some way too. We're human, and life affects us all differently, but we all feel the weight of the world at times. Sometimes it's anger, fear, frustration, or even heartbreak. While we can't control what this sometimes crazy, vicious world throws at us, I am here to show you that we control what we make of it. It's your life, and it's dictated by your choices. Our thoughts, emotions, and perspectives, they're all choices. The greatest gift you can give yourself is to choose you, what defines your success, and to take action. That said, there's nothing out there and no one out there that can make you quit. You're going to stumble, and you will fail. Hell, I've failed countless times, in fact. I've failed personally and professionally. I've made mistakes. I've lost in races. I've had to turn around in the mountains. I've hurt others in relationships, and I promise I'm far from perfect. Failure is a part of life, though. I'm not special, and I hate to break it to you, but nor are you. Our attitude can allow us to make excuses for ourselves, or it can inspire us. Failure should be the moment that empowers us to be the best version of ourselves. It means we care enough to actually try. We should view failure as opportunity to come back better, faster, and stronger than we were before. Remember, the obstacles that come with our hardships may be the very same things that catapult us into the best moments of our lives. My injuries led me to my skills and talents beyond what I knew in the military. My mistakes led me to figuring out where I actually wanted to be in life. All while my weaknesses have taught me to never be stagnant because there's always room to grow. Through everything, I'm just as grateful for the moments of disappointment as I am for the moments of glory. Those are the reminders of my grit and my grace. I've been asked countless times what the method to my madness is, and it's simple. The right actions follow the right perspectives. On the days when the bad starts to outweigh the good, I remember my why. I started all of this athletically and professionally because I didn't have the role model that I needed or wanted when I was in the hospital. So I constantly remind myself of the people watching, the young ones who need someone to be a pillar of hope, the men and women looking for inspiration to keep going, and the non-believers waiting for my middle finger as I prove them wrong. My why is not about me anymore. It's about all the sets of eyes that are on me. Whether it's making someone smile throughout the day, lending a hand to help someone reach a goal, or watching another person shatter boundaries to create change, I am fueled by witnessing the happiness, health, and success of others. Putting others before myself is what got me through the most challenging years of my life. By focusing on what I can do for others, my problems and my pain dissipated. By putting my heart and soul into the work that I do, I'm rewarded in ways far greater than any number in a paycheck. I am wealthy in experiences and relationships. I never dreamed that my struggles would lead me to where I am today. While whatever you are going through may not make sense, we never know where it's leading us, so stay the course. Now, more than ever before, I am in love with my climb, figuratively and literally. I know that we all started 2020 off with goals, but I'm here to remind you to take it that extra step further. Rest a moment less and endure a fraction more because you don't even know what you're capable of yet. I encourage you to make peace with your pain, to reflect on what you have and what you can give, and to remember your why. What you do, what we do, matters far more than any of you realize. We are movers and shakers, problem solvers, therapists at times, but most importantly, we are game changers. So embrace what this ever-changing life holds and never settle. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.